We are Niñas Tristes.
I'm Adi.
I'm Becky.
This is our Halloween episode.
Ooh.
So yeah, I love Halloween. I feel like, I've always gotten excited with Halloween. Because, being younger too, like, it's the one day, the way I always described it was like, it's the one day where, like, you could be, like, whatever you want. If you're afraid to live that life, like, you know, normally.
Like,
so
I
Halloween,
be a teacher. No.
So, like, well, like, not so basic like that. But, like, you know what I mean, right? Like, you get to do ridiculous things, like, and one day, like, you have an excuse for it. And then a lot of people are always like, oh, like, you know, like, that's why, like, you choose, like...
Well, what did you dress up as?
I don't remember when I was younger, but I remember being, like...
What was your first costume?
I don't know what my first costume was, to be honest. I may have been, like, when I was little, like, in kindergarten, like, a witch. Because, like, my mom dressed me up as that. But then when I got to choose what I dressed up as, I remember once I dressed up, I was 9 or 10 at the time, and I chose to be Jason. And, that was funny as fuck, because I remember when I went out trick-or-treating, some grown-ass man dressed as Michael Myers challenged me. Like, we were, like, down 18th Street, and, like, you know, like... It was Halloween day, and like, and so I had to play with it. At first I was like, what the fuck, little ass kid, like, I was like, you're a grown ass man, I'm all little, like, in my costume and shit. But in my defense, I did look like, I guess, like, I was dressed, so, I had like a little jacket, like a winter, like, lumberjack jacket, and like the machete, and then like the mask.
But who won though?
I don't know, I feel like it was both, like, it's a thing, like, cause he like pulled his knife at me, like, trying to come at me. And so then I was like, I just went like that back to with my machete. Because at first I was like, what the fuck? I was like, yo, this guy's like trying to box. And I was like 9 years old, like, oh shit. But I was like, oh, I'm wearing a mask, I guess I have to go with it. And then like everybody was like, oh, like. But I remember that being a cool moment though, because it was just like, what? Like Michael Myers and Jason.
Like someone recognizing your like outfit?
Yeah.
Recognizing that.
Or like,
acknowledging your costume?
Yeah.
I was definitely a pumpkin at one point. I feel like that's a very generic, like, as a kid, like, everybody gotta be a pumpkin.
I see that a lot on, like, newborns now. You know what I mean? They always have the baby pose as a pumpkin. I
just saw someone post, it was a baby as a, like, 6-inch sub sandwich. And they wrap them, and then
I said that.
Did you send that? Yes,
I said that because I was all like, "What the fuck is this?" And like the mom is dressed as the subway like the employee, like, and I was just like, "Why is it like cute?" Like I don't know. It's like, "Oh, my baby's a sub." Like what? I was like, "White people on Halloween."
But I think definitely like my favorite costume was that like when I dressed up with my brothers, and they were being like really into Steven Universe, like that's the most I like went out for like a costume. I went wig shopping. I got myself a pink wig. I was Rose Quartz, Steven's mom, and my brother was Steven. And my grandma made like the tutu skirt, like the tiered one. I thought it was so cool, but that was like the last time I got dressed. Yeah. I still got the wig, but I don't know. I enjoy like Halloween. I think I enjoy it more on the sense of like scary movies.
Yeah, me too. It's like an excuse, even though like,
or even like cartoon specials of Halloween, or any like sort of TV specials that they do like a Halloween series, like. Who did it? So, like, someone gets killed or something. Or, as we were talking about, like, The Simpsons, like, a House of Horrors, like, special. Like, I always love that. I like getting spooked. I mean, not in real life, like, but, like...
No, me too. I've always found it super interesting. And, like we were having a conversation with Felix, and we were like, oh, like, he's like, oh, growing up, like, he loved watching, like, horror movies even though it scared the shit out of him later. And I feel like I kind of was like that at first, like, when I would watch, because my dad didn't really care what he watched in front of us. He just, like, loved watching movies. And so I remember him watching a lot of, like, horror movies, like, and yeah, and a lot of them did, like, the one that fucked me up the most was, like, The Exorcist. And, like, because it was just, like, and I remember having nightmares a lot but I somehow, like, was interested even more, though, and I feel like I always wanted to know more, like, of, like, more scary shit. Like, then I started to realize that I kind of liked the idea of being scared, like, and now that I'm older, like, I feel like I want to be scared even more, because now I've reached a point where, like, I'm not scared easily.
It's like when your film obsession, like, escalates to watching reality TV, Paranormal Activity. I remember used to, like, staying up on, like, Sundays just to watch that, like, Paranormal Activity, Paranormal State, Ghost Hunters International. Yeah. Like, I love that. Which my dad was just telling me, actually, yesterday. We were on our way to Six Flags, and he was saying that, like, his boys, like, go and to a cemetery every year and that they go, like, ghost hunting.
Nice.
But, like, that this year, one of them, he's on house arrest, but he doesn't get off on house arrest until November 1st. So they gotta go after Halloween.
Oh, damn.
I was like, what?
That's funny.
I was like, ghost hunters in the hood?
Yeah, ghost hunters in the hood. Nah, we gotta wait till film after.
Or, like, what were those other movies, like, like the Paranormal Activity movies, like, those were, like, creepy, like, leaving the camera on and seeing, like, what happens, like.
Yeah, I feel like that spiraled into, like, oh, come on, but, like, the first one was definitely, like, it was crazy to me, because I was like, that's creepy, and at that time when that movie came out, I had been living in Florida for, like, that 1 second that I was there, and, like, my room, the way that my room was set up, and, like, the bed frame, like, it looked exactly like my room. Like, when the lady's, like, standing, and she's just standing, like, watching, like, her man, like, sleep in the middle of the night, but she doesn't, like, she doesn't know that she's doing that, but, like, she's, like, there, and, like, I would always think about that in my head when I was sleeping at night, because I was like, yo, this room looks exactly like that room, and I was like, that kind of creeped me out.
Rearranges, like, furniture and shit?
But it was a cool idea. I really liked that, because I was like, damn, yeah. Because that could happen. I'm like, because that could happen.
Well, I mean, like, even, like, the stories that we've been, I feel like, that have, like, the myths of, like, that have been passed down, and, like, stories, like, from back home, like, from, like, our grandparents' generations, and, like, our parents, like, always being like, oh, sí, like, hay espíritus, like, siempre tienes que, like, creer en Dios para que te proteja. Los angelitos te están, watchando. I always felt like, to a certain extent, like, it was entertaining, but then there were those moments where it was like, fuck, like, maybe there is, like, spirits lingering around the crib, or, like, anywhere you go. Like,
yeah. I remember when I was young, well, during that time when I would be, like, scared and shit, and I'd be like, well, this isn't real, this is a movie. So I'd always go to that. So then, like, I remember asking my dad, like, oh, like, are ghosts real? And he was like, oh, no. And then I was like, oh, okay, like, well, then fine. Like, like, I was like, cool, then I'm right. Like, this is all fake.
Dad. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? This is all fake then, like, these movies and that's what I had to. But then, like, I remember, like, a couple weeks later, I overheard, like, my dad and, like, sharing this story of, like, some, like, ghost that was at my uncle's house, and, like, how he had to help, like, get it blessed because it was, like, a thing, and, like, Well, the story, I hear them exchanging like stories of like ghosts and like shit, like crazy shit that's happened and like stuff like that. Like, and I hear my aunts and uncles talking about it, and then I'm like, wait, so they're real then? And like, I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, damn. And so that shit, so that's why like later, that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like The Exorcist fucked me up the most was because then finding out that could happen, like that shit was like even scarier. So then I was like, fuck, I felt like hopeless, like in that sense, and that, you know what I mean? Like,
you literally bring up this, like, my grandma goes to like church on Saturdays sometimes, like, porque llega like I guess like priests from like different countries, they come like, and like mostly like from Latin America, they come like travel through or whatever. And she said that like one priest came and like was giving like el testimonio or whatever, and like his sermon, but like I don't know if this like what this whole thing is, or that they meet up or whatever. They there was like people, she said, that were coming up and being like, oh, like that they feel the spirit in them, and like someone that used to like have some sort of like was like possessed by demons, and like giving their testimony and like how like this priest like saved them or whatever. And I was just like damn, like I just, like that just kind of like got me like, is this for real? Like this happens to people.
Yeah.
And people like, even people having these experiences of like cuando se te sube la muerte, and like feeling like you cannot breathe or you cannot move when you're like waking up. Like
I've never heard that expression, but I just take it as like sleep paralysis. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's this. I think it's referred to that, but I think that's what it is. It's sleep paralysis. I mean, I've never like thankfully had to like experience that, but it does sound like when I hear both phrases like interchange, it sounds like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
They just use the phrase of like se me sube la muerte, like, and you're not able to like move or talk or anything. And I'm just kind of like, fuck, like I am like, I'm not trying to disturb nobody. Like I will say a prayer here and there. Like, I'm not super religious. Like I've always said, like I'm more culturally religious than I am like
I've always been like super respectful like about my faith religious, but like but there are moments, like I'm saying, like I've always questioned it because I was like, damn, I don't know if there's shit out here. I just like, I mean, I believe in something, but I guess like for now I'm like, to what I've been taught, like I'll lean on that for something. Cause I mean, when I was younger too, like when I used to get really scared, cause the building that my dad owned on 18th Street, like apparently was haunted. Really? Cause it's old. Like he like owned, when he first like bought it, it was like 1980s. But assuming that building has been there, you know what I mean?
Right.
And and
how did you like come to find out, or like kind of get a sense of like it?
I always experienced things, but then I would always brush them off, and like also being young, I was like, nah, I saw this, or like I don't know, I just always justified it. And like every experience I've had with like paranormal stuff, I always justify it because I'm like, well, I didn't see it, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I heard something and this weird thing happened. But like what for real was like when I heard like my mom and share stories of like when she worked downstairs at the restaurant, and like so on like Fridays and Saturdays only like my mom works with like one other employee, because it's like just those are those days that like is like so that it's not necessary for them to have like that amount of people.
Yeah.
And so she would say that she would hear like, because they would cook carne, right? Mm-hmm. And that shit clicked in my head too, because I would always hear like people cutting like on a cutting board or like noises, but I was like, oh, they work.
Yeah.
And then I realized now that I was like, wait, like nobody worked on those days. And then like, you know what I mean? So there's no one doing that. And then like my mom would say that too, like she'd hear rustling of like dishes in the back, but then there'd be like she'd go like there'd be no one there.
Yeah.
And like shit like that. And that was like downstairs. So then there was a lot of weird shit when I was younger. one thing that I remember was like my grandpa, he would always go back and forth like to Mexico and be here, and like my mom was like, oh, like, and I feel like this is like such a stereotypical like story, but it's like, but this legit happened, and like it was fucking weird. But like, so my grandpa gifted me this like real wooden like Jesus like crucifix like thing like that you hang on your wall.
Okay.
But it had like the Jesus like on it, like, you know what I mean? It was like a swole one. And my mom was like, oh, mira, tu abuelito te lo trajo, like, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, like, that I had to, like, put it in my room. But I was like, I don't want to put it in my room. Like, well, it was just weird. Like, I was forced to put it in my room for some reason. And so she's like, oh, pues te lo regaló, ¿qué vas a hacer con it? Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, it was, that's one thing that about, like, I admire certain churches, like, the way that they're, like, architecturally. Mm-hmm. And then, but, like, one thing that I hated about church, some churches were, like, the actual like statues of like Jesus and like all these other things, they just look like fucking creepy and weird, like, yeah. And that's like what I had like this bleeding Jesus on my cross, like, and I was also young too, so I was just like,
but see, like they're just historically like they're made to seem this way, like to kind of show you like yo, like this man died for you,
yeah,
like for you to feel some sort of way, to have like some sort of emotional reaction looking at these things, you know?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like I totally agree. Like you go into like church and it's like nothing but like blood and shit everywhere, and it's like, whoa, like I thought this was a safe space, right?
I was just like, really?
Like, am I gonna die? Like.
But yeah, my grandpa gifted me that thing, and so I had to put it in my room, right? And so I had it in my room, and it was, my bed was like right here, and there was this wall, and so my mom put him right there, right? And so I remember like, yeah, I don't really remember like exactly how. I want to say that I woke up and like it would always just fall. It would always be on the floor. It would always be, and like for a while I would be like, okay, like whatever, like it just falls, it's too heavy. Yeah. And so I put it back up, and then it would fall. Like it will always somehow fall, and so like that was one thing that I always be like, I don't know. So then eventually I stopped putting it up because I was like, it was a heavy cross. So I feel like I would always be like, oh no, it was just heavy, like, and it just fall. But that shit was like some weird shit, or like there was one time where specifically like I remember like it was like my 10th or 11th birthday or something like that. Mm-hmm. And like we had a party in the building, and like at that time my brother Edwin was still with his wife, and they lived upstairs. Mm-hmm. And like I remember like she was like, oh, like come upstairs, like I want to show you something, and blah blah blah. And so I go up there, and then she's like, oh, she's like, I know you were interested, and like since it's your birthday, oh, like I'll let you play it. And like it was the Ouija board, and I remember she had the Ouija board, and like I'd ask her about it, and then I was like, oh, can I play? And she's like, no, like because your parents would get mad, and like blah blah blah. But that one time, since it was my birthday, she's like, oh, I'll let you play it like today. So then like I played it with my cousins, and we were like, oh, like, you know, and I'm not sure if we were actually like, I still am like doubtful, but apparently like no, like everyone was like, nah, like. But basically, when we were playing, we were talking to this specific like guy, and who I guess at that time, like I guess the person that we reached at that moment, because I don't think it was anyone from the building, it was just someone near. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, but it was just someone, and it was like this guy, this man that said that he passed away in a car crash. Mm-hmm. His name was John. Oh. And then like it was just really weird, and we just were like, okay, like, so you guys do something, were, like, yeah, we were asking him, we're like, oh, like blah blah blah, and like did the whole thing, and we're like, oh, who are you, and like blah blah blah, and we're like, oh, like, and Yeah. And then we were trying to get it to do something.
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh, well, like, we want to know, like, this is for real, and, like, do something then. Like, you know? And it would not respond, right? And then, like, it wouldn't say anything. And then we'd ask it again in a different form, and we'd be like, oh, well, like, show us that you're here. Like, give us a sign, and, like, blah, blah, blah. Then nothing really happened, and we're like, oh, like, whatever. And, like, we said goodbye, and then, like, you know, that whole thing, and then...
It's important to close the portal.
It is, yeah. And so, yeah, we said goodbye to it, and then we're like, okay, like, that was weird. And we still were all like, okay, like, someone was moving it, but everybody says that no, like, for real. And then so, like I said, it was my birthday, and so, like, we went back downstairs by my house, and, like, in my apartment, and then, like, we just continued to the party. But then, at some point, someone broke my brother's room's window. Huh? And, like, my mom was like, oh, like, fueron los chiquillos, blah, blah, blah. And, like, from the story, there was the story that my mom said that happened, and it was, like, estaban jugando, and, like, blah, 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 and, like, somebody broke it. Yeah. She's like, but that nobody wanted to take the blame, right? Mm-hmm. And then my cousin said, he was like, he was playing with us, the Ouija board. He was like, no, he's like, I remember passing by on the outside of the room. And he's like, oh, I passed by and I just saw it break. And I was just like, what the fuck? And then, like, I, like, ran and, like, went back to the party because I was like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. And I was like, so he didn't know on his end, like, who was in the room, but apparently there was no one in the room on the other side. And then my mom eventually went in and saw, like, that someone broke the window, and she was like, oh, los chiquillos, and, like, blah, blah, blah. And from what my cousin says, like, I don't know, he seemed shook about it, and he was just like, oh, like, I don't know, he's like, I just remember passing by and the thing, like, just, like, broke, like, as he passed by, and, like, and so I was like, oh, damn. And then we thought about it, and we're like, oh, like, what if, like, that's what it was, like, because we were, like, pushing it, like, asking him, like, oh, like, do something. Yeah. And then, then when I, like, the other thing, too, was, like, when I was going to sleep, I was already falling asleep. I had one of those boomboxes that, like, you could, like, set an alarm and, like, it'll play a CD or something. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So I had one of those, and, like, I was falling asleep already, and then it turned on. Mm. And I was like, what the fuck?
Was it playing the CD?
Yeah, it was like super loud. It was like, that's like, so when it turned on, it was like this loud fucking music. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I was already going to sleep, and then so, like, I just, like, jumped up and was like, what the fuck? And then, like, I was like, okay, what the fuck? And then it was weird. I was just like, what the fuck? And then I was scared, and I was just like, okay, like, yeah, I don't know what that was. So then I just unplugged the thing, because I was like, I don't know.
You're like, I don't want you to for sure turn on.
I was like, I don't know what the fuck that is going on. So I was like, wow. And then later, like, I think about it, and I was like, maybe, he was like, oh, or whatever it was. I could have anything. But there was a lot. I guess the scariest encounter in that building for me, that was like, okay, like, what the fuck, was, there was one time where my mom was, like, telling me to call, like, my brother, so I had to go upstairs, and where my brother's apartment was, like, all the way upstairs, so this was the door to his apartment you go in, but to the left, it's the attic door. Okay. The attic is really, really old, and it's super creepy, at night, like, it looks like fucking, like, super fucking old and creepy. And so, but sometimes they had it, like, there was a latch, and sometimes they had it locked so that no one could go in there. Mm. And so, so I'm going up there to go, like, knock on my brother's apartment to go, like, ask him, like, whatever. And so when I did, like, I'm going up, and then, like, I see the fucking door shaking. Like it's just shaking. And then the attic door.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, my fucking heart was pounding, dude. Like I've never had that happen. But like it was like I was frozen, but I was already there, and I was like, fuck. And then so I just kept knocking harder, like so my brother could open the door already. Yeah. And then I was like, fuck. And then when my brother opened the door, it fucking stopped. And then I was like, he's like, yeah. And like it was like you could see, like I was just like, what? And he's like, what? And then I was just like, and then like I don't know, for me it was like, he's not gonna believe me. Or like I just felt like weird like telling him. But I was just like all fucking like I was like fucked up. I was fucked up. I was just like, and then I was like, oh, like mom wants you. And then I was just like, I just remember feeling like fuck. Because it like the shit that fucked me up was like it stopped when he opened the door. Because it was like taunting me. Like
himself,
you know what I mean?
Like ever had experiences there though? Like did you guys ever
I think
talk
so.
about?
I think so. I remember. I feel like he knew too. Yeah, like. We did talk about it. I remember my sister used to tell me, yeah, like she knew that shit went down there, and like also like cause my dad would make us work at a restaurant, and I know like my sister and my brother like when they were teenagers like a lot, and so like that Edwin always used to like be scared to like go upstairs on his own, and he'd always ask someone like, oh like will you go upstairs, cause there's a backside like that connects to the downstairs, like to the restaurant.
Okay.
But that back stairway going up, sometimes the light was not on. Like there was no light there.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. So like you'd have to go up, pass through that like, and there's like dark, and then it's a long hallway to get to our apartment.
Yeah.
And so that like he didn't want to go through that. He never wanted to go through that. Like
see, for houses like that, I always would want to see like a blueprint or something, like to see like what the original like. Well, it was like like how it was structured and where everything was placed, because like in my old house when I lived like all the way like near Gage Park.
Oh yeah.
On the first floor in one of the rooms, the closet had like stairs going up. Like it's the room and then the closet, and then there like where you'd hang clothes, but then there's also like stairs going up to the second floor. There was like a door like in another closet, like where it would like be like that's where it would technically like be up. Or like at my grandparents' house, ya lo taparon, like they put like new floor, but there was like a trap door. So like on the basement level, like there would also like all the way in the back where they like use it for storage and stuff. Yeah. There's like stairs to go up, and it's like to a trap door on the floor. And I'm just like, what? Like that's so random. Yeah. Like the way that some of these houses like have these like little secret ways to them. It's almost like, why would you need all that? No, true. Like, right? I don't know. It was just always like kind of weird, like these random doors here and there, like, or like houses that have like baby like doors.
Oh, the crawl space, yeah.
Yeah, like stuff like that, and I'm just like, what? Like
we live like half a year of like my 7th grade. Like we lived on like 55th and Trumbull, and it was like this whole house that we had to ourselves. And so I had my own room. Manny had his own room, and they were across from each other. But my room, particularly, had the crawl space door. So it was like that little cube. And when my cousins would spend a night, they'd be like, "What is that? Like, what is it?" I was like, "I don't know. I know it goes like further, but I don't know how far." I would like store stuff in there, but like
to a certain extent where you can reach it, right?
Yeah, but not like far. So one time, my cousin, he was like, "I want to see how far it goes," and I was like, "Okay." I tried to go, but it was too like dusty, and like there was like weird shit like I would like cut myself. So I was like, nah. I was like, that's the most. And he's like, well, I'm gonna go like. And so I was like, okay. I was like, tell me how far it goes. And he's like, okay. And so he goes, and it literally goes as far as Manny's room, like all the way.
What?
But there is no like exit towards that. Like, you know what I mean? Like it goes all the way, but you can like hear and like do it. Like, so it's like kind of weird, right? Like,
yeah. Why would you?
Like, why would you? Yeah.
And
so that's like some spy, like weird, like hide like dead bodies in there or some shit, right?
Yes, like John Wayne Gacy, like hiding like bodies in his basement. Yeah. Like that's scary. I never really like had any like particular like paranormal experiences too much, but like yeah, there were like a few moments like in we used to live, like my family and I used to live like on the basement level of my grandma's house, and my uncle passed away. I don't know if it was like, I think it was in like our and my grandparents' garage from like carbon monoxide. They had the car on and and they had the door closed from the garage. They were just chilling, like my Theo and his friend, and they ended up passing out from like the carbon monoxide from the car. But like I would always like in the kitchen, so it was like a running like apartment. So you would walk in, you're in the living room that goes straight into like the dining like kitchen area, and then once you pass that is like the bathroom and then another room and then the back area where like we'd use as like storage. And all the time whenever I'd pass like between like the kitchen and the bathroom, like behind the stove, I kind of felt like there is like this sort of like smoky, shadowy like thing that I'd always see all the time, and I always thought like maybe it's like gas or something like leaking from which is like scary. But it never, like, I don't know why I always felt like it was like something like either like not maybe like a physical appearance of like a person, but like I kind of felt like it was like energy of some sort. Like I always kind of felt like I never was really like alone in that apartment, like even the times that I was, because like my mom would be at work and my dad would also like be gone, so it's like there were times where like I'd just be by myself, but passing through there's like this shadowy like thing, and I would always like be like fuck. But I mean, I was never like super frightened, like to the extent that you were like, you know, seeing things like move and shit, like, or even like just feeling like you're being watched or something, you know, that sort of like terrifying feeling. But there are like myths that like my aunt has shared with me. My uncle's wife is Filipino, and she has like mentioned how back at home there are like one is like a vampire, some sort of like vampire like figure that eats like pregnant women. Like it lives up in the trees in the forest area, and like it just like feeds on like pregnant women. And I always thought that was so strange, but like she's like, yeah, like people believe in that.
There are
like the chupacabras. Like,
well, actually, there's a lot of like Japanese and like that are similar. That sounds super familiar because I remember watching a couple videos of like there are a lot of like really weird like myths. There's one I know in Japan that is like this woman who lurks and she like preys on like men, and that she'll lure them, like, and these men disappear. Like people never know where they go, and like the whole thing is that like like I guess she like eats them, like she murders them, or like just she makes them disappear. But there have been like a lot of like cases of like of like men who've disappeared. And
that one's true though. That ain't no myth.
But like there's a whole like story behind her, like, or I guess like why she does that. But I was like damn, like that's crazy.
And then the other one, which I've heard, like I've also kind of heard like other people kind of talk about, and like I even read like this Haruki Murakami book that talks about like these like little people, and but in like the Philippines they know them as like duendes, and also like I've heard my grandma talk about it too, like duendes.
I was gonna literally say when you said little people, I was gonna be like, oh, duendes.
Those duendes.
I was like, they're literally a thing. Yeah, in Mexico, so many people have videos. There are videos all around of like duendes that run past people's homes, like they're a thing.
Yes, they're so small. I guess that you can't see them, or they like are invisible sometimes.
Yeah, they're just really weird. Yeah.
But they like play tricks on you. But like what my aunt had said was that like her cousin got possessed by one.
What?
Like they possessed her. That they live, and where they live out. I guess they live like in a more like rural area. That the duendes, like, you know, they build their houses or their like little mounds underneath people's homes. Sorry, they build under like people's homes, and that the duende possessed like the cousin, and that the cousin was like either like in a coma or just like mute for like some days or for like some like a period of time, like she wasn't fully conscious until they like found someone to come and like I guess like proceed with some sort of like exorcism or something.
Yeah.
And that when the cousin ended up waking up, she was like, she remembered something about like the duende wanted to marry her and take her with him, and like for her to be his wife, like, and be part of their like community and stuff like that. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like these like I was surprised because then, you know, I work with other like Filipinos, and I like talked to them about this, and they're like, yeah, like this is a thing, and like this is a thing that these people like nationally like believe in, or like in their country like believe in. But like then when it like crosses into like, my grandma was just talking about it and being like, oh sí, like te pueden esconder las cosas,
yeah,
te pueden esconder tus
they steal
llaves.
stuff, they steal stuff,
like
or hide your stuff.
travesuras.
Yeah, that's what they're known for. Yeah,
and I was like,
they
damn.
sneak into
So
your
like
house, yeah.
when you've lost your keys, or when you can't find certain things, it's like the duende took them. Like I'm just thinking like right now, like this morning I couldn't find my house keys, and I was like, where are they, like, because I don't ever really like lose things like that, or like thankfully like I usually am pretty good with like placing things like,
yeah, me too,
in the same place. And I remember I couldn't find my house keys this morning, and I was like kind of on time to like go to work, or like with a little bit of extra time, and I was like, nah, I was like, I can't leave my house without my keys.
Yeah.
Maybe the duendes. Was my grandma also had an apartment on 21st, and it was like it's a very old building. They're actually renovating it now because it had burned, and so in the building that she used to live in, they had like these large like bay windows. Like it was such a beautiful like apartment, very large, very long, but like again, like what I'm with the like layout of it is like kind of strange. Like it's like the front of the building, and then the windows, and then it's like there's a bedroom here, and where the windows are is like the living room, the dining room, but there's like a wall and a door that like there's a door before you go into the kitchen, like an actual like glass door, like before you go into the kitchen. So I was always like, why is that? Like, did this separate into something else before?
Yeah.
But in that house, in that apartment particularly, like I remember my grandma would always do things all the time, like, and I mean my grandma's not that old, so and this was like a few years back, so I couldn't like blame it on like on age or anything, or like she has dementia or something, and like she's pretty good also like about leaving things consistently in the same place. And, you know, had like the little key hook and everything for everybody to put their keys, but like all the time I was losing things, and that's when like I first kind of heard about the concept, but I never like I felt like I was so young, I didn't really like fully understand what she meant. I thought she was just kind of being like, I forgot, and like saying like, oh, los duendes, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sometimes like when you now. I think about that and I'm like, damn, if you lose things, like, it's los duendes.
It's los duendes.
Los duendes.
True. What's your favorite horror movie?
I still cannot find out, I still can't find the name of this, like, movie that I watched. Or it was, like, a series. It was, like I think 3 kind of series into like one big movie. It was like in Portuguese, and it was this one part that I kind of remember most is like it was these 3 like very beautiful like girls, and like they live with their dad, and their dad owns like a doll, like a little shop. This was like in black and white, like so it was like pretty old, like older. But I remember my uncle like. I would like stay at my grandma's house and they had like cable, so it would be like on IFC, like the International Film Channel or something, and he would like record stuff. So I would go on the DVR sometimes and like just look at whatever they had or whatever on there. So he had this like thing where it was like this like horror series or like compilation of like different like small like B-roll movies, and it was like the three daughters, like they didn't have a mom. The dad would take care of them, but he like owned his own business, and people would always come into his like, it was like a doll store or like a doll shop. He made like porcelain dolls of some sort, and it was like people would come and they'd be like, oh my god, like these dolls are so beautiful, they look so real. Their eyes look so real. They're just magnificent. They were just like very like illuminated like by this like thing that he would make. So one day like the girls are sleeping and the dad they're all like sleeping, it's nighttime, and like three guys come in and they try robbing them because I guess they lived in the same building that their business was in, and they're like, where's the money, like trying to get whatever. But then they see the daughters sleeping and they're like, oh, like, we want your daughters, and if you don't give us the money, like, we'll get your daughters. Then they, like, presume to, like, attempt to rape them, wake them up. They're, like, starting to caress their faces and stuff like that. And, like, so it's, like, escalating. And, like, the girls are, like, you know, shocked. Like, they're, like, you know, waking up and they're just, like, confused at everything that's going on. The dad, I think, is like tied up or something, and the girls end up like, I guess, having like some sort of supernatural powers or whatever, and they end up like I guess possessing the men that were trying to rob them and like stabbing them with like or kind of holding them down with like their eyes or something, or their stare. But like fast forward to like the dad ends up like poking out their eyes and puts them in the dolls, and that's what made the dolls like so beautiful. And then it's like the next day, like same thing, like new customers, and they're like, oh my god, these dolls, like their eyes. And it was like,
are they called dolls?
I don't honestly don't remember, but I remember watching this and being like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, but I thought that was like the coolest like thing that I like movie. I was like, damn. And then obviously like, I mean, I told you how I kind of really liked the Scream series for a little while. Like, I thought that was like, but then when I like rewatching it, I was like, this is kind of bad. Like, this is stupid. But like that one part where where it pissed me off, where Sydney's like mom like fucking dies. She's like in high school, and like that is a time where you're still kind of like maneuvering your way into like who you are, and like losing a parent is like a big deal. And I remember her saying like, oh Billy, like her boyfriend is gonna be like upset because she doesn't want to have sex with him. She's like, I'm just like sexually anorexic. Like, I was like, what? Like, what does that even mean? Like, why? Like, and being like, she isn't like allowed to like, she's like, I have she's like, my PTSD like stops me from like being aroused and whatever, like it was a bad thing or something. And like I was just like, yo, like mental health is like a thing, like, and she shouldn't, like, in my mind, like rewatching it, I was like, this is fucking retarded. Like, how are we dismissing like this girl is like still living through like the trauma, her mom died, and like people always harassing her and asking about her mom and calling her mom a hoe, and you know, this killer out on the loose. Yeah. I was just like, this is fucked up. But I kind of like watching it because it's so cheesy and so stupid, like, and so predictable, I guess, in a way. I remember going to the theater to watch like Scream 4.
Yeah.
But I would watch it again just because I think Macaulay Culkin's like brother is cute. Rory Culkin?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think he's cute.
What do you mean? I think he's cute.
I mean, Macaulay Culkin is kind of cute too. Like in a very like abstract way, I guess. I don't know.
But what would you say is like your favorite horror movie? Do you have one?
I thought Goodnight Mommy was good. That was, I think, more suspenseful movies. I don't know about anything like killing. I mean, when we went to go see, what was it, Hell?
Oh yeah, 3 from Hell.
Oh,
Devil's
yeah,
Rejects.
The Devil's Rejects was very interesting. I don't think I've ever fully watched it.
Yeah.
But when I did, I was just like, oh shit, like this is definitely like a Rob Zombie movie, like the whole like white trash, like
yeah. He talks. So I saw an interview about like, oh, they're like, oh, why are you obsessed with like these like weird like hillbilly like, and he's like they're a reflection of like what he grew up, and like he grew up. His family would take him to like. I guess they had friends who were like carnies, or like they hung out with like drifters and like shit like that. And he talks about how like that was his life, and like one of the most fucked up shit is like he saw like someone bashing like in someone's head like because they were gambling at like some like random like spot, and like shit got wild, and so these guys like fought, but then this guy like and it was just like a whole thing. So like him as a child like seeing that, like he was just like and like growing up around it, like I think he liked the idea of like, also because he grew up in like this very small town and there was nothing for him to like look forward to.
Yeah.
And so
where did he grow up, do you know?
I don't remember, no. Some random state. I don't remember what state he said. Yeah. But yeah, it was, I'm just like, oh, that makes sense now, because like he's obsessed with like like hillbilly like killers.
Yeah, like even just like the kind of I don't know, it was a lot of like lines crossed, like even in the like the way that they what is it, they kind of hold those people captive in like the hotel room, and like I guess how like they really go like, or his plot lines are very like deep and just go to like very disturbing places. Yeah. And I felt like that was definitely like on another tier of horror for me. Yeah. Like where you go to like depths where like you would like.
Well, have you ever saw like House of 1,000 Corpses? No. I guess that's supposed to be like the beginning of like that like saga of like the Devil's Rejects and all that, like because House of 1,000 Corpses was like these like young kids who go to, or like they're passing through or like something, I think it's like Halloween or something like that, and like they go to this big like mansion house and they stop by, or like I don't remember like the beginning part. I haven't seen that movie in so long, but like the whole thing is like they get stuck at this like amusement, like they think it's like this like, oh, like it's fun and games, but it's like this actual like crazy like family who like murder people, and then they have like all these like bodies like on display that they set up, and like it's like this weird Oh damn! And it really shows, I guess, the corny. I remember Marco would always be like, "Oh, like, that was the first movie he saw by Rob Zombie," and he's like, "Oh, I remember like that movie fucked me up, like House of 1,000 Corpses." It's like just because of like he just remembers like waking up mids of it, and then like it was like the most like fucked up parts. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I forget about that movie though. But I used to watch it.
Well, what's your favorite horror film?
Mine is Dead Alive. It's kind of like a zombie movie, but I feel like more than a zombie movie, if that makes sense, because it's like it's not like your typical zombie movie for some reason. I don't know, but it's like super cheesy, but gory, like super gory. But it's so cheesy and gory that like I don't know. It's like balanced, but I really love that movie. That movie's fucking funny and like super cool. I feel like if they made it now, but in the right way, like remade it, like it would look cool. Like,
how do you feel about like remakes? Like some of these like movies do sometimes do the remake and like even. Like I like Carrie. I haven't watched the remake because I was like, no, like I felt like it was done like perfect the first time.
Yeah, right.
Like or I mean I like Stanley Kubrick's like fuck, what is it called? The hotel one.
The Shining.
The Shining. Even though like I know the author like said that he definitely feels like it was a lot more intense than like it was it was supposed to be, or like from his it was like elevated. Stephen King like I think made a comment about like how much more elevated it was like from his book, and like not in a complimentary way. And I know people.
Well, he paid attention to a lot of like really weird things, and now of course it's because it's Stanley Kubrick, and like he's extra and he wants to do what he wants, you know? Yeah. And that's his whole thing. It's like, I remember I watched this documentary and it was like on like horror classics and like breaking down like certain movies, and one of them was like The Shining, and I remember them talking specifically about how there are certain like things that he did that was like weird, they thought, and like how one of the actors, and he ends up being, he's like a doorman or something, or he's like the housekeeper, but like the actor that they chose was like this very like high, like very memorable like actor, and like they were like, why did he play that small ass like bogus role? And it all, and like he like kind of diminished him, like, you know what I mean, like belittled him by giving him that role, and he's just like, oh hey, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I just remember a lot of people giving him shit because, like, well, I mean, and there's a lot of like, too, and they're like, wait, and the way that shit happens in the book, and it's like, oh, like.
I'm just thinking like, giving a high profile like actor a small role is almost like you're already a high profile actor, you're gonna get like attention to this movie anyway, regardless of whatever you do. Like, and maybe you're like just great enough that you don't even have to do anything. But also kind of like be demeaning as in like you're just a face and that's all you are. Like, you know what I mean? But almost like people were complaining about what is her name? Margot? Playing what is her name? Why is it like, why am I blanking right now? I know all their names. Sharon Tate's like character, Margot Robbie, playing like Sharon Tate's like character, and they're like, you barely gave her any lines in like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Oh. Like, why would you do that? But I feel like she played that silent role perfect. Like, you're good being quiet, girl. Like, yeah. What I was it here that we were trying to watch, or we saw the trailer of like Hilary Duff playing Sharon Tate. Yeah. That was fucking gross. Like, no, girl, no. The same scared face in every scene, like. Margot Robbie did it, and she did it better.
And she did it better.
She did it better than Sharon Tate herself. No.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie. Still.
You haven't?
Thanks for ruining it. No, I'm kidding.
Girl, pop it on right now. No.
Well, What's Up on Sam Hollywood? It hasn't even come out yet.
Has it? No.
But I'm trying to think what.
Well, but okay, so coming back to your to like Halloween and like to the theme of Halloween, you know, I I probably won't go like trick or treating or anything. I'm actually like on call, at work. But however, I know I'm definitely gonna be picking through my brother's like candy. Like definitely gonna pick out all the Reese's because those are my favorite. Reese's cups are my favorite. Some people do give out the like good Mexican candy, like tamarindo balls. Those are my favorite ones. They're called gomas. Gomas de tamarindo. I like those. I know like some people might hate me for saying this, and Michael loves them, but I don't really like mazapan like that.
Oh, mazapan.
I don't know. I don't really like peanut butter like that, and I feel kind of it's like.
I
like powdery peanut butter.
I'm okay with it,
but I like Reese's only.
I can't eat a whole one. A whole mazapan, like, cause it's just so sweet.
Yeah, like.
I eat half of it. I only like because of the nuts. That's it. But like, it only has very little, and then I'm always like, oh, I was like, this is so fucking sweet.
The one thing that I'm like, please, like, y'all need to stop being cheap. No Tootsie Rolls. Sometimes I'm down for the cacahuates. You be getting cacahuates down 18th Street sometimes.
Oh, nice.
And what are the ones that nobody really likes? Milky Way?
No, I hate Three Musketeers.
Yes, Three Musketeers. I hate Three Musketeers.
I hate fucking Milky Ways. I hate Sugar Daddy, or like, I hate Whoppers. I hate...
Oh, I don't like those.
They're
and
fucking nasty.
Butterfingers? No.
No, it's too much, yeah. I love Snickers, Twix. No, Snickers, Twix.
Es lo que yo quiero. Yo quiero Snickers and Twix.
Twix. I like regular Hershey's. If they had nuts, it'd be better.
So you like nuts?
Yeah, I do. And Skittles, Starburst, Twizzlers.
I like the Swedish Fish.
Yeah.
Sour Patch Kids. What else is really good? Paletas, I'm not too crazy about.
I love the. Are they blow pops or like the
those
the
are
stereotypical like que tienen el chicle like
yes.
in the middle? Yeah.
Yes.
I love those. The cherry, like, or the strawberry one, like, yes.
But there are some generous people that be giving out taffy apples, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I remember.
On the block.
There was only a bit where I would go trick or treating on 18th Street, but then it'd be too many people that sometimes I wouldn't get a lot of candy because by the time I get they would run out. Because there'd be so many fucking people down 18th Street. So then there were a lot of times where my mom would take me to where my aunt lived in Cicero. And so we'd go down there, and that shit was like. Yeah.
Oh, they're generous over
yeah,
there.
they are. Because then certain houses, yeah, like, it would be like...
The whole candy bar.
Old people, or like, you know, like... And they'd be making specific little baggies, like... that
with the little bats.
Yeah, like, they'd be making gift bags, like, and shit. Like, little, small, like, party bags. And they would have flame candies, like...
Little hot
chips.
Like,
yeah, and like, yeah... A juice, or
but you know what?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
One thing that I will miss, and like sadly, like this neighborhood is changing so much, and like Halloween will never be the same without El Nopal Bakery, because they would give those cookies out. Oh my god, those cookies were good.
Damn, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, they would give out cookies fresh.
Nice, that's cool.
I don't even care if I saw a rata go in there. I'm still down for those cookies.
True. Yeah.
Who else good? I know Jumping Bean would give out Twizzlers.
Nice.
I love Twizzlers. Oh my god.
You said Twizzlers.
Twizzlers. Reese's Twizzlers. I'm good. Or the sour punch straws. I like those too.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know, are we still having that like concern about like drugs and needles and candy? Like I've seen maybe sometimes like candy that popped open or whatever. But never was I slipped any drugs. I was like, shit, where are they at now?
Right? No, I forgot. There was one, I think either last year or something, that someone put something bogus. Oh, like razors in certain candies. Like shit like that. I don't know why, because people are fucking crazy. Because we were bored.
People hate Halloween?
But yeah, I feel like, yeah, it used to be a thing. Well, there was I probably came from that one guy who, in the 1960s, I want to say 1960s, 1950s, I remember, but like, they called him, I think they called him the Candyman, or like, it was like the real like version, or like, anyways, it was like this guy who he would like he would actually like drug like kids' candies and like abduct them or something. And it was a whole thing, and he had like a culprit, like this younger, like teenage boy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a real thing. And I think ever since then, they had like people, like you have to check your candy, like because he used to put like some sort of like weird shit. He killed like a lot of little kids. Cause it was like some sort of like weird, like, yeah.
Everybody check your candy.
Yeah. But I feel like it probably started from there. And they were like, yeah, like you can't trust people just giving out candy.
Damn. But are you gonna dress up this year?
Yeah, I'm like wondering what. Cause I was like, oh, I was gonna wear like a mask. But then I was like, I don't know. Cause then I also got like these like weird like gory like prosthetics for me to like do, but I don't know what I would wear, if I would wear that, like, so maybe just wear like bloody clothes, like.
Yes, the challenge is to try not to buy anything and like try to like come up with something in your closet. Right? I think that would be cool.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm gonna be anything particular, just like, yeah.
I don't know what I think. Yeah, I don't know if I would dress up. I mean,
I always think about trying. I was like, would it be the most like if I went trick or treating? Am I too like? Would that be a thing? Like I need a little kid? Like is that not acceptable? Like I can't even if I had a cool costume. Like I can't do that.
Nah, I think I still go. There are adults that like go all the time.
That's what I thought, but I always get too shy, and then like. I'm like, nah, never mind. What if I look fucking stupid?
Never mind.
Yeah, because I'm like, what if I look fucking stupid and I'm going and they're like, what the fuck? Like, where's your kid? Or like, what? Like, you know what I mean?
I am the kid.
But then, I don't know, I could pull it off, right? Like, as a teenager, maybe.
Okay.
Not like that. I could pull it off as a teenager.
All grown?
True.
Or like, have you ever gone like egging? No. On Halloween?
No.
I don't know. I've kind of like thought about it, like, cause some of my neighbors are whack.
Some of my neighbors are whack. I feel like now maybe yeah, cause go egging and like fucking
trick or treat at the same time. Like on this block, there ain't nobody.
Right.
Egg's house, and then goes like, next to block trick or treat.
And like fuck this building.
Like, and you know what building? No.
You're right? Like,
the gray ones? No.
Hey. Not like hey. True.
Or like, yeah, I feel like in movies they would always make it seem like cooler, like Halloween, like you TP the house or something. Yeah. But I feel like that is, I don't know, you get caught now.
That's some suburb shit, you know?
True. Like leaving your garage open and like your doors open and stuff. Like, I would never dare do that.
Yeah.
Like, my ass be double, triple, quadruple checking if the door is unlocked, if the windows are locked. Like, nope. Nobody's invited in here.
Nobody's invited in here.
You come through the front door, you leave through the front door. This candle all bloody? It looks so cool though. But the other ones haven't, like, blood.
No, because that's the only one that... The rest are just black. I put that one in the middle purposely.
for the effects. I love it.
So, this was our Halloween episode.
If you're giving out candy, look at you. Don't be cheap.
True. Be careful.
Be safe. Happy Halloween.